Speaking of farting, guys, there's no fart. As far as I know, there's no farting in Strange Darling. I wouldn't be surprised if there is. You know, some of the crazy stuff that we see in this movie, like, I imagine there was some fear farts, some terrified toots throughout this new horror thriller. Moving on, as I've been doing recently, I'm making a concerted effort to catch up on, several films, that I've missed, earlier this year. I've done that recently with Nora. I want to do that in time with Conclave. Obviously, I won't be able to check out everything, but I'll eventually get to some of those movies in January and February and stuff leading up to, the Academy Awards, all those big award seasons. But I just want to check out a few more films before I put together my best of and worst of lists. And I'm very glad that I've been doing that, because Strange Darling is one of those movies that have been recommended to me for, months now. Ever since I think it originally came out like several months ago, people were telling me, like, Chris, go and see this movie. And I finally have seen it. And I'm going to admit to you guys at the top, this is going to be a little hard to review. Not because it's confusing or poorly made. Quite the opposite, in fact. Strange Darling is absolutely one of the best films of the year of 2024. The direction, the writing, performances, and other technical aspects are all great across the board. I have no criticisms. Again, just making it one of the best genre films that I've seen this year. It's just that you should see this film completely blind. Don't watch a trailer or read a plot synopsis. Just watch it and just let it wash over you. Because there are a ton of twists and turns in this movie that are really fun and satisfying to see. To give you the most basic of premises, this is a cat and mouse game between two people. You have a man called the Demon hunting this woman, and crazy hijinks ensue. That's all I want to give you for the synopsis, for the premise of this film. Also, this movie is written and directed by J.T. Molnier, who I don't believe I've seen any of his other works, though maybe I have. Correct me if I am indeed wrong. But the movie structure is similar to that of something like Pulp Fiction. It's not told in sequential order. I believe we actually get to chapter 3 first. Like, the movie starts with chapter 3, and then we go back to chapter 1, and then we go to chapter 5, and we're constantly going back and forth throughout the entire movie. And that just helps build the mystery and the tension of what's actually going on in this film. At first you might get like a little whiplash, watching, just kind of going back and forth. But in my opinion, if the film was told in a linear fashion, in a sequential order, it would not have the same level of impact. These twists and turns that the movie just takes, and there are many of them, by the way, they would not hit in the same way. And I think it's a very smart decision on the part of the filmmakers to do that. It makes you, as the viewer, just start to question so many things and be genuinely surprised in a great way as the film goes along. The cast in this movie does a great job with the material that they're given. But it's Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner who are the film's leads, and they do an absolutely fantastic job. Their chemistry and conflict in the movie is great, and the cat and mouse game between them is exciting as we learn more about it and the origins of it over time. The last thing that I saw Fitzgerald in, which I think a lot of people might not be familiar with her, but the last thing that I saw her in that I really liked was in The Fall of the House of Usher. She played the young version of Madeline Usher in the series. And she was great, like a lot of the flashback sequences and stuff that they kept going back to. Here, she's on another level. And the things that she does in this movie, along with just the physicality of her character, make her performance one of my absolute favorites of the year. I don't know if she's going to get award attention or has gotten award attention, but in my opinion, she absolutely should. I feel like this movie's kind of going under the radar for a lot of like the big award, shows and those kind of accolades, but it deserves it. She gives a fantastic performance in this movie. And Gallner, who I think has always been a very, very solid guy as an actor. You might recognize him most recently as the male lead in the first Smile, a role he later reprises in Smile too. His work in this movie is the best of his career. His character is often referred to as the demon, and you learn as to why in the film over time he is called that, right? And like Fitzgerald's character, there's just a lot more to him as well. As you watch the film, you learn over time. The film's aesthetics are really impressive too. The lighting is very good in the movie. It's very moody in a number of places. The use of color is great, to evoke the emotions of the characters, and also just kind of the twists and turns that happen in the film. Has a great color palette, especially in the earlier chapters of the film, and then kind of like later on, we're in the middle ones, it's very bright and things, and then like in the back half, there's some great stuff they do with lighting and black and white, make certain things monochromatic, which I thought was really cool. Weirdly enough, Giovanni Ribisi is one of the producers on the movie. And he's also the film's cinematographer, which is weird. Giovanni Ribisi, of course, is an actor. You've seen him in many movies and TV shows over the years. And I guess just his experience as being an actor and being on so many film sets, he clearly, was like, I want to be a cinematographer. And he does a great job in the movie. The movie looks great. It's shot very well. There's not like a scene where it looks sloppy or anything. It's fantastic cinematography. Also, the soundtrack of the film is great. The movie's use of music is very good. The song "Love Hurts" pops up at certain points in the film, especially during one key moment, and it's used incredibly well for the scene and the sequence that we see. But and again, I wish I can go into more details about it. There is a supporting cast in this, some recognizable faces. Ed Begley, he's in the movie. He plays an old biker in the film, an old retired biker. I forget the other actor's name, but he played Gomi from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hank Schrader's Dean Norris's partner in that series. He pops up in this movie as a cop, which I thought, for the little role that he has, he's also very good in the film. But I mean, just overall, this movie, Strange Darling, it just takes a very simple and straightforward concept that we have seen a lot over the years, over the decades, but it really just twists it on its head. Turns it on its head and makes it feel really special and very fresh. The choices made by the filmmakers elevate it to one of the best movies of the year. I do wonder though if I watch this again in the future, like knowing what I do, if it's going to have like the same impact that it did, like the same surprises. And there's a lot of surprises in this movie. And I'm not sure, I haven't rewatched it again, but I don't know, just seeing the craftsmanship, just seeing the cleverness of this in terms of the writing and how dedicated the performances are and how the technical aspects all serve everything else. Everyone involved, they just made like a really smart, nasty, genre film, a really cool horror thriller that I think many people will appreciate. If the one thing that it's funny enough, similar to Anora, that might rub people the wrong way is there is some sex in it, and it's stuff that is kind of goes past like BDSM and a little bit into like sadism and stuff. If that bothers you, again, I don't want to say too much, then maybe this movie might not be your vibe, but it's not throughout the entire movie or anything. It revolves it's necessary because it sets something up. That's interesting. That's it. It gets a little freaky. Yeah, it gets a little freaky at one point. But it works for the film, and it sets up a very tense and interesting scenario. But yeah, overall, Strange Darling was such a huge surprise. I am so glad that I did not have this movie spoiled for me. Thank you guys for not spoiling for me or anything. I know some of you had, of course, have seen it, been recommending it to me, have highlighted it. It's a lot on your best of lists, and it might be on mine too. But yeah, this is a great movie that I think a lot of people will enjoy, especially if you're a genre fan and you love a good, nasty, brutal horror thriller. So Strange Darling gets a high recommendation from me. But what about you guys? I'm curious, how many of you have seen Strange Darling? Those of you who have, did you really like it? Like myself? Were you more mixed on it? Or you just downright hate it? You're thinking, darling, I don't need you. I don't care how strange you are. I don't want you. Let me know.
5 minutes later.
Let's see what you guys are saying right here. Bishop Sycamore says, top 5 movies for me this year. Strange Darling is excellent. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's excellent, too. It's wonderful. Wonderful movie. But yeah, I totally see what you mean. I agree with it being one of the best of the year. Yeah, Sally, this went under the radar in every way. I remember I only had one chance to see it before it was gone. I'm trying to remember when this originally came out, because I think some of you had seen this early and you were telling me about it. Was it in September or late August of this year? That's a rough time to release. Pretty rough time. Love Hurts is used much better here than Rob Zombie's. Oh my God. Oh, that's right. I totally forgot. Yeah, Rob Zombie, he likes to use that song in his Halloween movies. Oh yeah. It's how it's used here, it makes so much sense. Damn. Yeah, you're right. God, Rob Zombie, he's a terrible filmmaker. I don't mean to go off on a Rob Zombie tirade, but I don't know his music at all, so I can't say. But him as a filmmaker, as a director, as a writer, Jesus Christ. Just incompetent across the board. Oh, he's shoving his talentless wife into things, too. Late August, if I remember correctly. Okay. I'm trying to remember, what was released in August. I think that was that was Alien. I made an Alien Romulus, and that was kind of the movie of that month. And then you had The Crow, which, didn't do well, obviously. But then, that had its, had its little time in the sun briefly. But yeah, probably releasing The Shadow of Alien Romulus and that fucking xenomorph. That penis head monstrosity. It casts a very long and girthy shadow. So I could see why maybe it got ignored. But now's the time to check it out. Yeah. Thank God while I was on vacation to get to see The Crow. Also, oh man, I'm so sorry. My condolences. Also did see Blink twice. That's another one, which is another one of my favorites this year. Yeah, that's another one I miss. I'm probably not going to be able to get to that one for my best of, worst of list and stuff, but I think I could check that out sometime in January and watch it, because I know of a lot of people that have seen that really dug that film. And that's another one that kind of went under the radar. That was in the shadow of some other bigger commercial movies. So yeah, it's too bad, but I'll make an effort to check it out. But yeah, overall, chat, I think Strange Darling's great. I think you guys are going to like it. And again, I hope I didn't allude to anything or spoil anything by my descriptions of things. I know this is a much shorter review than I typically do, but I'm just want to be careful not to give anything away, because I want you guys to experience it, obviously, for yourselves and not be spoiled. But it's great. It's very good. Very good. Oh man, yeah, if you hated Rob Zombie's Halloween, you'll love The Lords of Salem. I don't think I've ever seen that movie. Crow may be up here on the worst of. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll tell you what now. Crow is on my worst of list. But don't worry, it has company. It has a lot of company too. Man, Crow is so bad. Speaking of love, what's that fucking line in the film that made me laugh out loud in the theater? Oh yeah, it's when Bill Skarsgård, who is Eric. He's Eric Draven. They don't call him Eric Draven, but they call him Eric. I'm like, he's Eric Draven. Come on. I think they probably took out the Draven. They didn't reveal his last name because they knew people would freak out. But there's a moment where he's talking with Figs, or whatever the hell her name is, and TK, what was it? I forget what her name. I don't remember. The girl, his Shelly, and she has all these tattoos on her body. He has all the tattoos on his body and on her hand. She has a laugh now, cry later thing, tattoo on her hand. And he's like, "That's a nice tattoo." She's like, "What would your tattoo be? How would your tattoo describe you?" He's like, "I think it would describe me more as a cry now and cry later kind of guy. I'm just like, oh my fucking God. And they proceed to just do drugs and drink and fuck, and that's it. No, the romance of a lifetime. Oi, oi, oi. Terrible. Terrible. But Strange Darlings, anything but terrible, chat. It's really good. It's a really good film. I recommend it.